The mysterious Olmecs, the first civilization of America, long before the rise of the Maya, centuries before the mighty Aztecs ruled Tenochtitlan. An older, deeper civilization flourished in the jungles and river valleys of ancient Mexico. They left no written history, no empire carved in stone, only colossal heads silent and staring across time. These were the Olmecs, the mysterious people who laid the very foundation of American civilization. No one knows their real name. Olmec is what the Aztecs called them, meaning people of the rubber land. But who they truly were, where they came from, how they lived, and what caused their disappearance remains one of archaeology's greatest puzzles. It all began over 3,000 years ago, around 1500 BCE, along the swampy Gulf Coast of modern-day Veracruz and Tabasco. The land was harsh, humid jungles, treacherous rivers, and constant floods. Yet here the Olmecs built cities that defied their environment. San Lorenzo, La Venta, Tres Zapotes, names that now echo with mystery. In San Lorenzo, the earliest known city of the Americas, massive stone platforms rose from the earth. Drainage systems ran beneath them, carved from basalt, proving a mastery of engineering unseen in the world at that time. Around these structures stood colossal heads, each weighing up to 40 tons, carved from volcanic rock, carried miles from distant quarries. Their faces were not alike. They were portraits, each unique, perhaps rulers, warriors, or gods. Their expression was calm yet powerful, as if watching over the ages. The Olmecs were not just builders, they were visionaries. They created art unlike any other. Jade figures, polished mirrors, intricate masks, all reveal a people obsessed with balance, spirituality, and transformation. Jaguars, serpents, and half-human creatures filled their sculptures, symbols of a world where gods and men blurred. They also gave the Americas its firsts, the first pyramids, the first writing, the first calendar. Centuries before the Maya or Aztec glyphs, the Olmecs carved symbols into stone, early forms of writing that still baffle linguists. Their calendar system measured the cycles of the sun and stars with precision rivaling ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. Trade flowed through their cities. From distant highlands came obsidian and jade, from the coasts, seashells and fish, from the jungles, cacao, feathers, and rubber. The Olmecs connected lands and peoples across Mesoamerica, spreading their ideas, art, and beliefs. Every later civilization, the Maya, Zapotec, Toltec, and Aztec, owed something to them. At the heart of their culture lay religion. They worshipped gods of maize, rain, and fertility. They believed in a three-tiered universe, the heavens above, the earth below, and the watery underworld beneath. Shamans adorned in jaguar skins mediated between worlds through rituals, trance, and perhaps even early forms of the Mesoamerican ballgame, a sacred contest that symbolized the struggle between life and death. Then, around 400 BCE, the Olmec world began to fade. San Lorenzo had already fallen centuries earlier, replaced by La Venta as the new ceremonial center. Yet even La Venta was eventually abandoned, its monuments buried under earth and jungle. The once thriving civilization disappeared, leaving behind no armies, no chronicles, only silence. Why did they vanish? Some believe rivers changed course, devastating their farmlands. Others point to volcanic eruptions or internal revolt. Perhaps their power simply shifted to new centers, transforming into later cultures rather than ending entirely. Whatever the cause, their legacy endured. The gods they worshipped, the symbols they carved, and the myths they told would echo for over 2,000 years. When the Aztecs rose in the 14th century, they looked back and called the Olmecs the Ancient Ones. They believed the colossal heads were the faces of giants who once ruled the earth. Even today, archaeologists and historians search for the truth, how such an advanced civilization emerged so early, seemingly out of nowhere. Some theories push further into speculation. Could the Olmecs have been influenced by contact from across the oceans? Their art shows faces with features unlike others in the region, leading fringe theories to suggest African, Asian, or even transoceanic visitors. Yet mainstream archaeology remains cautious, pointing instead to the diversity within early Mesoamerica itself. Whatever their origin, the Olmecs' achievements speak for themselves. They built the world's first cities in the Americas, mastered architecture, art, and astronomy, and laid the spiritual and cultural foundations for all who followed. Today, deep in the jungles of Veracruz, the colossal heads still stand, half buried, scarred by time yet unbroken, Their eyes seem to watch the passing centuries, their silence louder than words. The Olmecs remind us that civilization does not begin with conquest or empire. It begins with imagination, with the belief that humans can shape stone, soil, and spirit into something eternal. Long before Columbus, long before the Maya pyramids or the Aztec temples, there were the Olmecs, the first civilization of the Americas, and the keepers of a mystery still waiting to be fully uncovered. The birth of a civilization. In the beginning, the Gulf Coast was a land of chaos. Rivers overflowed their banks, rain fell without mercy, and the jungle swallowed anything that stood still. Yet out of this untamed wilderness, the Olmecs built order. They tamed rivers with canals, drained swamps, and raised platforms to keep their homes dry. They watched the stars and learned the rhythms of the sun, moon, and rain. In their eyes, the world was alive. Every mountain, every storm, every jaguar spirit held meaning. To them, the universe was not ruled by men, but by balance. They saw life as a cycle, death feeding birth, the earth breathing through floods and droughts. Their temples reflected this harmony, aligning perfectly with the heavens. San Lorenzo, their first great city, was unlike anything seen before. It sat on a man-made plateau above the river plains, a symbol of mastery over nature. Around it lay vast courtyards, colossal thrones of stone, and palaces likely built for kings and priests. Beneath the city, archaeologists have uncovered intricate drainage systems, basalt channels guiding water through the settlement. How could a people with no metal tools carve and move such massive stones? The answer remains uncertain. Some believe the Olmecs used wooden rollers and rafts, harnessing manpower and ingenuity. Others see something more mysterious, a knowledge far ahead of its time. The age of the colossal heads. One of the greatest enigmas of the Olmecs are the colossal heads, each one carved from volcanic basalt, each weighing as much as 40 tons. They were transported over 60 miles from distant mountains, without wheels, without beasts of burden. Their faces are not alike. Some bear helmets, others scars or unique expressions. They are not gods, but rulers, immortalized in stone, watching over the land long after death. Their sheer size was a statement of power. To move one head required hundreds, maybe thousands of workers. To carve one required years. To place one in its temple square meant the ruler had joined the divine. To the Olmecs, kings were not just leaders. They were mediators between the gods and the people. Their word carried spiritual weight. Their rituals kept the sun rising and the rains falling. Every head, every altar, every stone carving spoke of divine authority. The world of the gods, the Olmec religion, was a universe of transformation. They believed men could become animals, animals could become gods, and gods could shape the earth. Among their most sacred symbols was the were-jaguar, a human-jaguar hybrid, mouth open in a silent roar. To them, the jaguar was the king of beasts, a bridge between the physical and spiritual worlds. Shamans, draped in jaguar pelts, would enter trance states through ritual, dance, and perhaps even hallucinogenic plants. They believed their spirit left their body, traveling between realms to speak with ancestors and gods. At the heart of their mythology lay a sacred cycle, the maize god, dying and reborn with the seasons. The rain god, bringing fertility but also destruction. The serpent, coiling between heaven and earth. Through these beliefs, the Olmecs created something profound, the first Mesoamerican religion. It would shape every civilization that followed. The Maya, Zapotecs, and Aztecs would all inherit their gods, their rituals, and their vision of a world bound by sacred balance. Masters of art and symbol. Olmec art is unlike anything else in the ancient world. Every piece, from polished jade figures to colossal thrones, was alive with meaning. They carved babies with adult faces, gods with jaguar features, and humans in states of transformation. Their jade masks are among the most beautiful ever found. Green, shining like the heart of the earth. Each sculpture carried spiritual power. Jade was the stone of life, hard to find, harder to shape. It symbolized the eternal breath of nature. Even their architecture followed sacred geometry. The layout of La Venta, one of their later cities, was aligned perfectly with celestial events, its main pyramid pointing toward the rising sun during key dates. The rise of La Venta after San Lorenzo's mysterious fall around 900 BCE, a new center rose, La Venta. It became the beating heart of the Olmec world. Here, they built the first known pyramid in the Americas, a massive clay mound shaped like a volcano. Surrounding it were temples, plazas, and sacred altars, each reflecting cosmic design. At its core, archaeologists discovered buried mosaics of jade and serpentine, carefully arranged symbols of the underworld, never meant to be seen again. These offerings were not art for the living, but gifts to the gods below. La Venta became the spiritual capital of the Olmecs, their holy city. Pilgrims likely traveled for miles to witness its ceremonies, rituals of fire, blood, and renewal. The sacred game the Olmecs are credited with inventing one of the oldest known sports, the Mesoamerican ball game. It was not a game for fun but a sacred ritual symbolizing the eternal struggle between life and death, sun and darkness. Players used a heavy rubber ball, striking it with their hips, knees, and elbows. Losing was more than defeat, it could mean death. In some rituals, the game reenacted the journey of the sun through the underworld, reborn each dawn. From the Olmecs, this game spread across all of Mesoamerica. By the time of the Aztecs, it had become central to their faith and politics. Decline and disappearance by 400 BCE, the Olmec Civilization began to fade. Their cities were abandoned, their monuments buried beneath time and earth. Some say floods and earthquakes destroyed them. Others believe rival cities rose and took their place. Perhaps their power dissolved slowly, absorbed by emerging cultures that carried their legacy forward. Whatever the reason, the Olmecs vanished, but their influence did not. The Maya would later build pyramids, develop writing, and worship gods rooted in Olmec belief. The Aztecs would inherit their symbols, their rituals, even their calendar. The Olmecs became a ghost civilization, the invisible architects of an entire continent's culture. Their disappearance marked not an end, but a transformation. The culture that had once defined the Gulf Coast dissolved into its surroundings, absorbed by the people it had influenced. Small villages continued to exist where great cities once stood. Trade still flowed along the rivers. Rituals were still performed in the same sacred spots. The Olmec world slowly faded into legend, but its foundations remained alive beneath new names and new gods. Centuries later, the Maya rose in the forests of Guatemala and the Yucatan. They built cities with pyramids, temples, and ball courts. They developed writing, mathematics, and astronomy. In every part of their civilization, traces of the Olmecs could be seen. The concept of sacred kingship, the jaguar as a divine symbol, the belief in three worlds connected by ritual, all of it began with the Olmecs. The Maya refined what the Olmecs imagined. Without the Olmecs, the Maya might never have existed in the form we know them. The Aztecs, too, looked back toward the Gulf Coast with awe. In their legends, they spoke of ancient teachers who brought them wisdom and laws. They called the land of the Olmecs the birthplace of civilization. Even their gods carried Olmec traits: serpents, jaguars, and rain deities with curling fangs. The Olmecs had set the pattern for how Mesoamerica would think about the divine, as a balance of creation and destruction, life and sacrifice. Modern archaeologists have pieced together this lost world from fragments, broken statues, buried jade, and the layout of forgotten cities. Every discovery adds another thread to the mystery. The colossal heads, once thought to be random monuments, are now seen as dynastic portraits. Each head stood within a ritual plaza, facing specific directions, possibly aligned to astronomical events. Their placement may have been as deliberate as their creation. San Lorenzo's vast plateau was not natural. It was built by human hands. Tons of earth carried basket by basket, creating terraces and drainage channels. The amount of labor required suggests centralized authority and a population of tens of thousands. For centuries, scholars believed the Olmecs were isolated, but new evidence shows that they were the heart of a wide network. Trade routes carried their influence across what is now Mexico and Central America. Obsidian from the highlands, jade from the south, and feathers from distant jungles all found their way to Olmec cities. Even their art tells stories that reach beyond their borders. The Olmec style, rounded faces, almond eyes, and symbolic headdresses, appears in cultures hundreds of miles away. Their motifs of serpents, rain, and transformation became the common language of Mesoamerican spirituality. In a sense, they wrote the first visual scripture of the Americas. Though the Olmecs left no known written texts, there are clues they experimented with proto-writing. Carved symbols on artifacts from Cascayal, a site in Veracruz, show what might be one of the earliest scripts in the Western Hemisphere. The symbols are arranged in sequences, repeating patterns that suggest language rather than decoration. If confirmed, it would mean that the Olmecs not only shaped religion and art, but also the very concept of writing in the New World. Archaeologists have also discovered sophisticated urban planning beneath the soil. Recent LiDAR scans, laser mapping from aircraft, reveal geometric layouts hidden under centuries of jungle. These scans show that the Olmecs arranged their cities with mathematical precision. Roads and plazas align with solstices, pyramids mark equinoxes, and ceremonial centers mirror constellations. They built not just for the present but for eternity, connecting heaven and earth through architecture. The Olmecs were also scientists of the natural world. Their mastery of agriculture supported large populations. They cultivated maize, beans, and squash in perfect balance, replenishing the soil through seasonal rotation. They used river floods to enrich fields and built raised gardens that resisted drought. This ability to harness nature allowed them to sustain great cities in an environment that could easily destroy them. Their rulers understood that power came not only from control but from belief. The Olmecs built legitimacy through ceremony. Every ritual, from planting to sacrifice, reinforced the idea that the king was essential for cosmic order. The colossal heads were not vanity. They were monuments to divine duty. When people saw their ruler's face carved in stone, they were reminded that his authority came from the gods. The fall of La Venta around 400 BCE remains one of archaeology's most enduring mysteries. There are signs of deliberate destruction, monuments defaced, altars smashed, sculptures buried. It may have been ritual closure, the symbolic ending of a sacred cycle, or it may have been rebellion, the people turning against divine rulers who could no longer deliver stability. Whatever the cause, the Olmec heartland fell silent. The jungle reclaimed its temples, rivers shifted course, and history began to forget. Yet forgetting is never complete. Beneath the soil, the stones waited. When the first colossal head was unearthed in the 1860s, the world was unprepared. Scholars could not imagine that such a civilization had existed in the Americas so early. Over time, more heads were found, each revealing a piece of the story. Excavations in San Lorenzo, La Venta, and Tres Zapotes revealed an entire lost world. Every discovery raised new questions, every answer deepened the mystery. Who were the Olmec rulers? How did they organize their society? What led to their sudden decline? Each generation of archaeologists finds new evidence. Carved altars showing rulers holding infants, jade masks buried with symbolic offerings, complex ceremonial deposits. These clues suggest a culture obsessed with birth, death, and rebirth. The infant figures may represent the maize god, sacrificed and reborn each season. The buried mosaics might symbolize the underworld, sealed forever to keep the universe in balance. Today, the Olmecs are recognized as the mother civilization of Mesoamerica. Their ideas became the foundation for everything that followed. They invented monumental architecture, sacred kingship, and religious symbolism that shaped entire cultures. Theirs was the first organized worldview in the Americas, combining art, science, and spirituality into one system. What makes the Olmecs so compelling is not only what they achieved, but how much remains unknown. We can walk among their ruins, touch their sculptures, and study their tools. Yet we cannot hear their voices. Their language, their songs, their true names are lost. The silence of the Olmecs is what makes them eternal. They are a civilization half hidden in myth, half revealed by stone. The Gulf Coast that once echoed with their ceremonies is now quiet. Villages stand where temples once rose. Farmers still find pieces of jade in their fields, small remnants of a world that vanished thousands of years ago. Every artifact uncovered reminds us that the story of civilization is older, deeper, and more mysterious than we thought. The Olmecs were the first to dream on this land. They imagined gods before there were empires, built monuments before there were kingdoms, and gave the Americas their first vision of what it meant to be human in the eyes of the divine. Their world may be buried, but their influence is carved into the foundation of everything that followed. The story of the Olmecs is not just history, it is origin. They were the spark that ignited a continent's imagination, the quiet architects of civilizations yet to come. Their cities may have fallen, their voices may have faded, but their legacy endures in every stone that reaches for the sky. The Olmecs remind us that the beginning of greatness is often hidden in the shadows of mystery, waiting to be rediscovered by those who still seek the truth buried beneath the earth. Even after their civilization vanished, the Olmec spirit endured in the memory of those who came after. The people who inherited their land still whispered of sacred mountains and rivers alive with spirits. Their myths blended with Olmec legends until no one could tell where one ended and the other began. What survived was not a name but an idea, the belief that humanity was born from the meeting of earth and sky, and that every human act had cosmic weight. The descendants of the Olmecs carried fragments of their culture across centuries. The Zapotecs built stone temples in the valleys of Oaxaca that echoed Olmec design. The Maya adopted their concept of divine kingship and developed it into a vast, celestial hierarchy. The Aztecs turned the Olmec belief in sacrifice into a national creed. Even their calendar, the 260-day ritual count, may have first been devised in the Olmec world. Time itself became an inheritance from the people who once ruled the swamps. Modern technology has allowed us to see what time had hidden. LiDAR surveys have revealed massive ceremonial complexes under forests that no one imagined were there. Thousands of years ago, the Olmecs shaped their environment with precision. The scale of their earthworks rivals the pyramids of Egypt in volume, though built not from stone but from clay and human endurance. Every plaza, mound, and platform had a purpose. The layout of their cities followed cosmic geometry, linking the earth to the heavens through mathematics and faith. Their craftsmanship shows a mastery beyond their era. The Olmecs worked jade and obsidian with tools of stone and wood, achieving a polish that modern artisans struggle to replicate. Their pottery was thin, symmetrical, and painted with colors that still shine after millennia underground. Even their smallest carvings show emotion, faces serene, mournful, or fierce as if the stone itself were alive. Each artifact carries the same signature of intelligence and artistry that defines all great civilizations. The Olmecs also pioneered trade networks that spanned enormous distances. Their influence stretched from the Pacific coast to the highlands of central Mexico and beyond. They traded cacao, rubber, feathers, and minerals, linking diverse peoples into a single economic web. The exchange was not only material but cultural. Through trade came ideas, symbols, and beliefs. The Olmecs were the first to connect the scattered peoples of the Americas into something larger than tribes, into civilization. Every discovery deepens the mystery of who they truly were. Some scholars argue that the Olmecs were a confederation of many groups bound by religion, rather than a single nation. Others see evidence of dynastic rule and an early form of centralized government. What remains undeniable is their vision. The Olmecs understood that to endure, a people must build not just walls and cities but myths. Their art, their rituals, and their monuments were all part of a single purpose: to explain the world and humanity's place within it. The Olmec worldview saw no division between science and faith. The stars guided their planting, their pyramids marked the passage of time, and their ceremonies reflected the cycles of the cosmos. They observed the heavens with accuracy that rivals later astronomers. Their temples aligned with solstices. Their rituals matched celestial events. To them, understanding the sky was a form of worship, and to shape the earth was to honor the gods who made it. Archaeological evidence also reveals a society of surprising complexity. There were artisans, farmers, priests, and rulers, each with roles defined by tradition and belief. Women participated in religious life, and families honored ancestors through household rituals. Music and dance were part of their ceremonies, accompanied by drums, flutes, and rattles. The sound of their celebrations once echoed through the jungle like the heartbeat of a living world. Their relationship with nature was one of reverence and respect. They saw the world not as a resource but as a living being. Mountains were sacred, rivers were divine veins, and animals were spiritual guides. This harmony sustained them for centuries. When later civilizations lost that balance, collapse followed. The Olmecs' greatest wisdom may not have been their monuments, but their understanding that survival depends on harmony between human ambition and natural order. When European explorers arrived in the Americas thousands of years later, they found ruins they could not explain. They marveled at pyramids, temples, and sculptures, but did not know that these wonders traced their lineage back to the Olmecs. The true story of the first civilization of the Americas would remain buried until the modern age, when archaeology began to uncover what history had forgotten. Today, museums display Olmec artifacts behind glass, each piece glowing with the green light of jade or the dark sheen of basalt. Yet these objects were never meant to be isolated. They were part of a living faith, expressions of connection between people and the universe. To understand them fully is to imagine the world that created them, a world of rain and fire, ritual and rebirth, beauty and mystery. The Olmecs remind us that civilization is older and deeper than we think. It does not begin with written words or grand empires. It begins with imagination, the ability to see beyond survival, to build meaning into the world. The Olmecs imagined gods before kingdoms, carved eternity into stone, and dreamed of order in the chaos of the earth. Their vision became the foundation for everything that followed. Even now, as satellites scan the forests and archaeologists uncover hidden temples, the full truth of the Olmecs remains beyond reach. Perhaps it always will. Some mysteries are not meant to be solved but remembered. The Olmecs are one of those mysteries, a civilization erased by time yet alive in spirit, reminding us that the first light of human genius often shines from places long forgotten.